What's up guys, Matty B here. I wanted to do a quick shout out to say thanks to everyone who has watched and responded to my last video. I'm really overwhelmed with the response I've gotten. Talking about maths isn't always easy for me based on the experience I had on the show and afterwards. It's fair to say that even 2 years later, I'm still processing it. So to be able to read all of your kind and not so kind words means a lot to someone like me who hasn't always felt heard in the past. For the UK and US audiences, one of the questions that keeps coming up is about how the show impacted my life and what the fallout was like. This is a topic that I've wanted to talk about for a long time, but I've always struggled to articulate it. In today's video, I'm going to share with you what life after maths was like and how it taught me one of the hardest lessons I've ever learned. Fair warning guys, before we get into the video, I just want to let you know that some of the stuff I'm going to talk about may be triggering for some people. I know it was for me at the time. But everything I'm going to share with you is publicly available and a quick Google search should bring it all up. And before we go any further, make sure to like and subscribe and turn on bell notifications so you can be notified every time we release a new video. But without further ado, let's get into the video. The fallout. Maths Australia. Okay, so rewind back to 2018. Before I went on the show, I was an introvert who was crippled with anxiety and I had battled suicidal thoughts for years. I decided to apply to the show for two reasons. Firstly, I wanted to do something so unbelievably drastic, it would shake up my entire world and force me to change some of these patterns that were crippling me. And secondly, I wanted to find someone to fall in love with. Maths was a way for me to do both, so I went for it. You know now that I didn't find love and it was the furthest thing from a fairy tale. I was on the show for a total of 10 days, but it was actually 5 days before I realized that it wasn't doing me any good. I got out at the first opportunity, and I hoped that after my storyline ended, everyone would move on and forget it had ever happened. After all, my season saw multiple affairs and wine throwing. Realistically, who was even going to remember that anxious virgin at the beginning? Unfortunately, the person I was matched with had other ideas. Aliens, the truth is out there. It was just after my storyline had wrapped and things started getting weird. I'd never really been in a proper relationship, and there are definitely things I regret to this day. After I'd finished filming the show, I got abused for months. It took a lot of courage, but once it had finally finished airing, I finally blocked her. I thought I was done. I'd never had to block anyone before, so this was completely new territory. Unfortunately, I then got a call from the producers to tell me that she had snuck onto a radio station and started a rumor that I believed I was abducted by aliens. No, really. Aliens.
He actually said, I believe I was abducted by aliens and they've done something to my brain.
No, really. Now apparently I needed to go back and do more media to explain that no, I'm not an alien, and no, I've never been abducted.
What on earth could you have had a conversation about that ended with you thinking you were on the X-Files?
Well, I would have loved to have been on the X-Files.
Great show.
Love that
True.
show. Yeah, that was actually a point where I was trusting Lauren and opening up to her, and I was telling her about a point in my life when I was my most depressed, and I used the metaphor that I felt like I was an alien. I couldn't connect to anyone. I felt isolated, alone, like I was from a different species, and that was how I was, I guess, illustrating my depression.
I should never have needed to explain it, but I did. I now know that this was an attempt to discredit me. A lot of things happened during the experiment that were not acceptable and not okay. This was an attempt to cast doubt on my mental health, to prevent me from ever speaking out. And it worked. For a while, anyway. It begins. The smear campaign. If you thought that starting rumors about aliens was it, I'm afraid we're only just getting started. The person I was matched with then spent months on social media insinuating I was gay. Now, I understand the experiment was rough on both of us, but rather than using it as an opportunity for self-reflection and growth, the person I was matched with seemed to make it her mission to convince everyone I was gay. Now, to be honest, I find it difficult to understand why this matters whether I was gay or straight. The end result would have been the same. I moved on and found someone else. What's the big deal? I might not conform to this toxic masculinity stereotype, but I'm actually glad I don't. Life is way too short for that. But more seriously, unless you want to date them, someone else's sexuality isn't your business. No one else has the right to out another person. It's not cool and it's not classy. A lot of people were quite hurt by the things she was saying, and it ended up being screenshotted and shared to a fan account and picked up by the media. I had to give yet another statement, which is how I found out about it. going after your loved ones. I guess when she realized she wasn't getting to me, the person I was matched with went after my girlfriend. It's hard when people attack your loved ones, and to be honest, this is probably what I'm most angry about. Fortunately, my girlfriend is one of the strongest people I know, and the attacks, well, they were ridiculous. No, really. Apparently she put on a wig and took a picture of herself cross-eyed, and that was supposed to be my girlfriend. I mean, it would be funny if it wasn't so sad. How do you deal with a situation like this? I've had a lot of messages from people telling me they're considering applying for the show and asking what advice I would give them. You need to understand that MAFS Australia is a drama-generating machine. My storyline wasn't particularly dramatic compared with the rest of the season, and while I think I did well to get out when I did, and despite the editing tricks they pulled, I managed to come out relatively unscathed, but I still had to contend with months and months of public smearing. I don't think any of my castmates were treated quite as badly as I was by their matches, even the ones who cheated. I'm not gonna lie, it was really tough sometimes. I'd never been in a situation where I had to go no contact with someone before, especially so publicly, so it was a case of learning on the fly. I now realize that certain personalities are going to smear you regardless of how kind you are. I used to believe that by responding to the negativity, I was only going to bring legitimacy to what they were saying. But this experience taught me that sometimes that's just unavoidable. As someone who's been bullied, I never stood up for myself or spoke out against the bullies. Having come out of this experiment, I'm trying to break this habit of feeling the need to protect the people that are abusing me. I believe there's value in speaking up. You don't need to slur people or call them names to get your point across. In fact, it's been far more effective for me to remain civil while talking about what actually happened and how it affected me. I'm a lot braver and better at confrontation than I've ever been, and I think a large part has been because of the trolling I received. It's ironic that it was my authenticity, vulnerability, and openness about my mental health issues that made me open for attack. But that's what's helped me survive. Actions will always mean more than words, and 2 years on, people have been much kinder because they can see that I genuinely wanted to meet someone. Ultimately, people are going to make up their minds about you based on very little information, and there's really nothing you can do about it. We all have our critics, and I ultimately realized that if you believe I was abducted by aliens, or are using homophobic slurs to talk about people, you're just not the kind of person whose opinions I respect. Some people are able to see through the editing and the lies, others won't, and that's just the way it goes. Honestly, screw what anyone else thinks. It's been 2 years, and while I've changed and grown, my values are still the same. Besides, give it a couple of months and everyone will forget about this crap anyway. But I just wanted to end on a heartfelt thanks to all of you who have supported me on my journey thus far. I only have a platform to talk about these things because of your support. And if there's anything you guys want me to speak about or you want to know, let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button and make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so you can be notified every time we release a new video. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and until next time, I'm Maddie B, and be kind to one another.